All right, well, welcome back to week 3. We have a big series. We have 3 videos. I apologize, I didn't break them up into little smaller parts. So I'm going to do my best to get through each one quickly. We have 3 parts. We have Build a Nation. This is going to be this first video, followed by the unification of Italy, followed by the unification of Germany. And we got to cover all of that and then still get the Crimean War next week. So let's start up with the building of nations. So we have to stop for a moment and just pause again. Every time we got to pause. Understanding that history doesn't happen in isolation. We don't get a nice cut of time and say, okay, we're going to look at just Germany or just Italy or just England for a certain amount of time, and the rest of the world is going to sit back and kind of hold themselves to, kind of waiting and pausing to see what's going on. That doesn't happen. Things are happening all the time. People are reacting to what other people, other nations, other countries are doing all the time. So we have to sort of pull things out of context, look at what we can, connect it as best we can, and then put it back in and then kind of layer it. So that's what we're going to do today. And the first part is what's the status? What's going through people's minds at this time? All these different situations that they find themselves in between about 1830 and 1870, 1871. We have finished the Napoleonic Wars. We have had lots of chaos, lots of battles, lots of governments rising and falling throughout all of Europe. And Napoleon has been put down. The kingdoms have risen up again and sort of brought sort of peace back to the European theater. Of course, the people who are still looking for liberties, those people who were of the Democratic Revolution and the thinking behind it, they're still looking for answers. They're still looking for their part. You can look at it right here. This is Europe in 1812, just 3 years before this period. Look at all the land that Napoleon has under its influence and its allies. This covers everything from Italy to Spain up into the Germanic region, all the way across into the borderlands of Russia. Yet, this is what is left in 1815. The powers that be that pushed down Napoleon decide to go in and redefine borders, put things back into kingdom states and duchies and things like that. And look at how much chaos and how much differentiation there is. There's not a whole lot of unity. France is still France. Spain is still Spain. Great Britain is busy doing all the things that it's doing. Russia, pretty much the same. But those central countries, those central regions are very much disunified. They have no real common cause. At the same time, we have the Industrial Revolution. The explosion starts in the late 1700s in England and kind of spreads its way across Europe. Germany or Prussia is starting to get on board and is developing its industry, its railroads. France, Spain, things are happening. Ottomans, like we talked about last time, they're trying to catch up. They're trying to adapt. The Islamic world's trying to adapt. Lots of things are happening. Transportation is faster and spreading. Communication is faster and spreading. Labor is needed. People are migrating and moving. There becomes this sense of sort of the king of the hill of industry. Of course, Great Britain, United Kingdom is the top dog. It is the one that is far outshining everyone else. The amount of money, GDP per capita is just beyond anybody else, any of those other areas. Look at the graph here. This is just before 1800s till about 1900s. The black line, that's Britain. That's its growth. That's how much it shot up in just in that 100-year period. It was already ahead at the 1800s, but it just skyrockets. And we don't see a lot of other movement, other countries sort of following up, catching up until later. And then France, Germany, Italy to some extent, Spain to some extent. You see those little ripples, the yellow, the green, the blue, and the orange, they start to rise up. But as of 1900, take a look at 1900. Look how much farther ahead Britain is compared to everybody else. You look at places like India and China, they're almost flat the entire time. They have had almost no growth, no expansion. So Britain really is top dog. And what does that do to the mindset of people? How are they reacting to this? Well, if you know that there's a big dog in town, some big bully, or perhaps somebody who at least poses a threat of taking over, there is this natural sort of sense of wanting to kind of consolidate, to get together, to unify, to make alliances, to pull yourself together so that you have a formidable force to go up against anything that the big dog might want to bring into your nation or into your areas. So there is a growing sense of national culture, a desire for common identity, common survival, the common good. But if you're looking at those areas like in the German Confederacy, all of those individual duchies and kingdoms, you look at Italy, there's not a sense of a common identity. These commonalities are not there. So let's take a look for a minute at what this national culture, what is the national culture? How do you develop it? What is it all about? If you look back when we first started this series and we were looking at traditional history compared to modern history, the traditional perspective, one of the things that we identified was that it was very extremely local. You identified with your village, with your clan, with your tribe. You maybe identified with a piece of land. You frequently had a unique language that was spoken within your own area. You rarely went beyond 25, 30 miles from your home center, your base. You were born there, raised there, married there, had children there, and died there. That was the world. So your perspective, your understanding of what is the community, what is your community, was very local, limited. Everything else around it was almost irrelevant. But by the mid-1800s, there's more of a modern perspective that takes place. We have very much dislocated communities. People are migrating hundreds and thousands of miles or more to get to work, to get to cities. Remember we talked about the migrations, people moving in mass numbers into those areas where industry was booming, jobs were available, families were broken up, so that the traditional infrastructure of community is beginning to break up. You are next door neighbors with somebody who is from one country, maybe from Russia, and you are from one of the states in Italy. You're thousands of miles apart from one another. You don't share common belief systems or traditions or holidays or celebrations, maybe not even values. You definitely don't share the same language. But this also enlarges your sense of community. You're not isolated anymore. Your world is not made up of that one little village in 25 radius circumference around that village. You are interconnected with many ethnic groups, many different people. You're sharing ideas, sharing foods, and sharing clothes, and sharing skills, and sharing knowledge, one back and forth. And news is coming from all over the place, from thousands and thousands of miles away, and we're going to get to that. That also builds this sense of, I have a place in the world, a bigger place in the world. So that new sense of enlargement, that new sense of a diverse community of people, that triggers some questions. They want to know, well, who are we now? We were defined by village, land, maybe a tribe, but now we are miles away, have new surroundings, we're intermixed with a whole bunch of diverse people, multiple languages. What makes us a people in common? How are we going to get together? And that is where national culture begins to really develop in this particular period of the 19th century. So, with the rise of national culture, we see this growing consciousness towards nationhood. More and more people are looking for that sense of identity, that sense of let's work together to build a common language, to build common traditions, to have common goals. And how are they going to do this? How are they going to achieve this? Well, in this time period, one of the ways that they do that is through the creation of national schools. And in that sense, they are promoting a common culture. I can teach kids what our people group is all about. And they will grow up learning that, hopefully embracing that as they get older. This is a painting in 1848. You can see all of these people that are gathering, all the flags. You have the German flag, Italian flag, French's flag, and there is this hope of brotherhood. If we can become a nation with shared causes, shared language, shared culture, then there should be, the hope is, a sense of better brotherhood amongst the world communities. One nation is not going to rise up against another nation. We have common cause. And so that is what it is. If you look at the bottom of this painting, you'll see all these different crowns and things of that sort. The idea here is people had this perspective, this sort of subconscious working of their mind that was driving them, that said the past has been sort of defined by the whim of princes. We go, we fight, we die, we live for them. And that sense of liberty, that sense of democratic thinking, and that sense of nationalism is starting to rise up. And people want to find a way to create their own destiny, so to speak, to create their own sense of culture where values can trickle down to every single person, not just be defined by whoever's sitting on the throne. But of course, as you know, this sort of spirit of nationalism sort of starts to grow in these countries, there's going to be kickback, there's going to be rivalry, there's going to be people who are going to say no, and perhaps the biggest rival at this time is the church. Church at this time was very powerful. You had the Roman Catholic Church at this time, you had Russian Orthodox Church. There's many different elements that are rising up that have had political, social power. We've talked about this before. And so the question comes up as these nationalists, these citizens of the to-be nation are beginning to ask, well, who's going to run our schools? Who's going to assign the teachers to teach our kids in these schools? And who decides what will be taught in those schools? This becomes a really big sort of debate at this time. And so this is a picture of Otto von Bismarck playing chess with the Pope, Catholic Pope at this time. In this picture, Bismarck is winning at this present moment, and the Pope is just contemplating his next move, what he's going to do. Bismarck representing that sense of nationalism, that sense of push for national culture. In fact, in German, they call this Kulturkampf, or the culture war. So what do these nationalists, what do these people wanting a sense of national identity want to do? How do they do this? Well, one of the things they're going to do is they're going to start creating new secular universities. Remember, the church in many ways sort of sponsored, backed, and actually were the professors, the teaching staff within many universities prior to this, but up rises at this time the secular university. This is the University College at London in 1826. It was one of the first secular colleges, universities to pop up in England. It's not controlled by the church, and it doesn't focus per se on theology. That's not its main purpose. Instead, it encourages exploration and advancements of knowledge and the new sciences that are popping up. They want the technology. They want they're giving out like rewards for people who are coming up with new ways of thinking about the big questions of the day. And of course, there is this growing emphasis on the national history, teaching national history. Who are we? How did we get here? This becomes really big during this time. There's also the promotion of public schools. Nowadays, we think public schools, mandated school is sort of like a given. We all have lived it most of our lives. I lived it in my lifetime. You are living it currently in yours. And although this had been going on since like the 1700s, it really takes new shape in the 1800s. Again, the state wants to assume the role of leader in the public schools. It wants to control curriculum and teaching and who is teaching. They want to teach a national culture to the children so that there's a common mindset as the generations go on. They want to teach a common language. So the idea, you're in the United States, your compulsive language is English. You have to take 12 years of English. You go to France, you go to England, you go to other countries, you have compulsory language that is part of the curriculum. They want to prepare students for future work. This kind of has a bad taste historically. There's a lot of people that kind of call this factory education or the factory model education. Most of my research that's debatable. Yes, the Industrial Revolution is moving up. Yes, these people want to have intelligent or semi-intelligent people that can run the machines and the businesses. But from what I gather and from what I've read, most of what I get is that there is a sense of wanting to build the national citizen. Who is going to be the American citizen? Who's going to be the French citizen, the Prussian citizen, the Austrian citizen? Who is that? What qualities do they hold? That really is, I think, is what's pushing this era of education. They want to shape that good citizen for tomorrow. And what does that look like? As well as make sure that people have enough education to be able to handle the factory work and things that is going on during this revolution. There's also the expansion of newspapers. This is a picture of the Times. It's in London, 1840. This is the front page, believe it or not. It doesn't look like our front pages. Our front pages have all of the biggest news stories from around the world, the highlights and the big headlines. This would be a common newspaper front page. It covers news from thousands of miles away in just a day or so. Telegram, right? You could go over and get information. People can report news that's taking place thousands of miles away and bring it to your doorstep. And this begins to build that sense of larger community among the readers. You could just blow up part of this. This is a different newspaper a little bit later, but this is basically the same kind of thing that's going on. It's community news. That front page is all the stuff that's happening locally or within the nation. You can see here you got St. Martin's Hall Orchestra is holding a concert, a couple concerts. The Crystal Palace has a concert with different singers, and it encourages people to come. There's a choir. There's just different activities. It reads more like the entertainment page than it does the front page of our modern newspaper. Those world news found deeper in the paper. It's not on the top page. It's deeper. Why? Why is that not on the front? Well, because global community, really hadn't developed yet. They're trying to develop the local community, the national community. So I want to connect my people with as many things that are going on within my local community, my national community. And that's the reason for the front page. So how did the newspapers get there? Well, they actually got there through the development of a postal service. Now, yes, everybody knows postal system had been developed earlier in the 1700s, but primarily that postal service was restrictive. It didn't reach all the homes. It really was more about moving political documentation and information around. But in this time, the authorities in the region, in the nation, are looking to establish a national postal service. This is a common uniform worn by the postal carrier. And this is delivering local news, i.e. the newspaper mostly. That's what the initial mail was delivering newspapers to as many people as prescribed or subscribed, directly to people's houses. So you would get home, you get the postal delivery, you'll open up your newspaper, and bam, you are now connected to everything that's going on in your community within your nation. They have to create post offices, and they have to create the officers that are going to run those post offices. So this vast sharing of information encouraged a greater sense of belonging, greater sense of community, greater sense of identity. And that's all part of this. Well, that also brings up then this idea of national service personnel. This would be, if you're going to create a post office, you need a postmaster and you need postal carriers. This bottom area is sort of an example, that bottom picture, of the different offices within the postal national service. There's also the idea of foreign postings, particularly in Britain, who has colonies, France, who has colonies, Dutch, who has colonies all over the place. They need their representatives, their officials, to represent in those areas. And so they would be sent there or posted in those foreign countries to exchange and collect data, information, news, make sure everything is running the way it's supposed to. There is this growing need for public school teachers and the training of public school teachers. What does a teacher really need to know before they can step into a public school and assume that role? And in sort of a funny way, there's also this emergence of a uniform, a one form, one costume that starts to develop. And it doesn't only develop in Europe proper, in these advanced sort of industrial regions, but I mean, this is a picture on the right. These are Ottoman Empire officers in the military. They are very classically dressed, very European style. Their epaulets and their sashes, where they wear their medals, is very, very French, very, very European. And you can look at them and know rank. Yes, prior to this, armies and infantry and cavalry, they all had sort of their own uniform, but there wasn't, even at that time, there wasn't a set uniform, a uniformity of look. that would immediately tell an onlooker who this particular person is. Yet at this time, even teachers were at times required to wear a specific uniform, a manner of dress that identified them and all other teachers as this is a teacher, male or female. There's also this sense of a growing yearning for greatness and purpose and historical significance. People want to be remembered, and this national culture building is no different. People want to be remembered as a nation of greatness. And this is an example from 1872. It's a painting by John Gast called American Progress. This push for progress, for advancement, for greatness, for purpose. In this particular painting, you can see, for instance, you can see the farmer who is moving west, laying the land, domesticating it, and using it to his purpose. You have miners who are going west. They're all focused on this goal, this progress across America at this time. All of the trains and the wagons and things are all moving in that direction as well. And the only thing I would say that I did not mark on here, but I thought it was interesting, is the lady figure of progress, this lady of sort of like manifest destiny. This person in her right arm has telegram wire, and it's running across and then across the land along those the poles next to that bottom right railroad. So it's taking the news, taking this sort of gospel of progress and evangelizing it, pushing out the native, pushing them away, going to the ultimate extreme and becoming a great nation. That was very, very important at that time. So, we pause again. This is sort of the underbubbling, the brewing unrest that is going on, and this desire for unity and national identity. And this is coming up. And so in that mindset, in that unrest in the world, while some nations are advancing in explosive measures, and others are trying to catch up, trying to be significant, trying to protect themselves, there is this growing sense of unity. We need to get together. We need to be a nation. And that is where we're going next, with the unification of Italy, followed by the unification of Germany. So, stick by, pause, take some notes, run off, get a snack and a drink, come back, and we'll hit up with the unification of Italy next.